Okay, so here we are to show you an example of what the picture quality out of the box looks like. I have Dead or Alive 4 on just so you can get an idea of how the upscaling capabilities work. Every company talks about AI and their superior processing power, and we're just going to talk about what we are and are not seeing. So the first thing we're not seeing is some game-changing approach to making graphics look so much better. The other thing that we're not seeing out of the gate is a lot of brightness. It's very dim. Now, I did go ahead and turn off store mode because, we're in a different mode now. But we're going to also open up our settings just to get an idea of what we can and can't set. So the brightness by default is set at 10. That's pretty ridiculous. And that means you're going to have to go in and change some things. Now, I would expect Vivid to be a little better. We have an intelligent mode, which I'm not going to lie, gives a little bit more kick. PC mode is useless. That's just going to be really gray and really washed out and stuff like that. The same as game mode, which again, not gonna look very great. Movie mode is another one of those like ultra muted, dull, washed modes. Sports mode is gonna be really blue, and then you're back to standard. So this year, it looks like they've removed like low power mode from their option suite, but that's okay. So we're gonna go ahead and raise the brightness because that's just ridiculous to have it that low. So we're gonna go to 100% to see what the picture quality can look like when we do that. Now, doing that, you do see vibrant purples because, again, they're rocking a really cold color temperature, so expect primary colors to increase. Red, greens, blues, but subsequent colors like purple look really good when you have a cooler color temperature. Not accurate, but good, and again, you'll see in an example how much better it can look. Now, one of the things I am noticing is that motion is decent. It's not like perfect, but it is decent out of the gate. So we're going to go into some of the deeper picture settings and go over those and show you what you can expect. So we already did the picture mode, but it does kind of look a little bare bone, okay? So you saw under the brightness tab, we have obviously our contrast, black level, our gamma, which features gamma 2.2, 2.4, 2.6, BT 1886, which is what I would like to set it to, 1.8, 2.0, and then back to 2.2. So I'll set it to BT 1886, and that's just something you guys can do for yourself. That's the SDR gamma curve. Just leave it that way. Now they have something called automatic HDR conversion. If we click and toggle that on, it doesn't give you access to tone mapping or anything like that, and honestly, it doesn't really look very different from when you don't have it on. Now, sometimes menus can obstruct certain things, so we can go ahead and try to turn it off to see if it will look any differently, but there isn't really a different look that I've noticed even when turning that HDR feature on. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and toggle that back off, and we're going to go into showing you the rest of the settings here. Now, to be noted, you do get better black levels by a little bit, but not a whole lot with that feature on. Now, dynamic contrast is on low. You also have high, but there's an adaptive feature. So whatever adaptive does, I have no idea. That will take some investigation, but that is a feature that I've actually never seen on a television, an adaptive dynamic contrast. Like, what even is that? I'll leave it back to the default low though. You have black stretch on, and you have a slider this year that has low and high as your options to deepen or enrich your black levels. You have local contrast, which intensifies the areas of the signal to make contrast appear brighter and more, again, transparent and things like that. But in essence, I'd probably stick to something like low, me personally. Peak luminance is on standard. You have a highlight. I don't know why they wrote highlight. I don't know if they mean like highlight, like what highlights are, or if it's a very high light, like a light in the room. So very confusing the way they wrote that. I don't know if that's like a English translation glitch or something like that, because this is a Chinese company, but yeah, weird. And then they have a high dynamic. So I'm imagining maybe it's like high light, like a light mode, not like a dynamic or a high mode. It's weird the way they said that, because high and light are an oxymoron. They don't go together. But yeah, so you have peak luminance at various different levels that don't really make a whole lot of sense. And this will adjust the maximum brightness of the room adjust the maximum brightness of the control of the area. Basically, it's your local dimming. So I imagine if you turn it to high, the highest you could possibly have it, maybe it'll be good. Micro contrast, we're familiar with that on the last year's models of their televisions. Basically, it just finds a highlight more or less and it makes it brighter. I usually would turn it off or on low. I wouldn't go past that, and this year they've kept it on low. Now, as far as the dynamic brightness, they have it on eco mode. I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off as well, and that covers the brightness tab. Now, under the color tab, you have dynamic color on by default. You can turn it off, but it'll just look a little bit more washed. color temperatures at normal. You can set it to warm. I typically like to do that. But now this year you have varying degrees of warm, which I thoroughly really do appreciate, because you know, you don't have to be an expert to get a nice warm picture. And if you like a warm picture like I do, you don't have to struggle to get a decently warm one. I'd say warm 3 is like where most people probably would want to be. And that's just from what I know. And then the white balance options, you can go up to a 20-point calibration. Your color spaces are custom, auto, active. I don't know what active is. And native, and then auto. And you have the red, green, blue slider way of adjusting color. So unfortunately that still persists. My camera battery died. So, you know, through the magic of editing, I'm just here again, loading it back up and showing you what's up. So we run to the color tab last, and we stopped at like custom color, just showing you what it's all about. But native, you could also do auto, which looks more washed out, and active color, which I don't truly know what active does. Again, a lot of this is going to need exploration, because they do have new features in here, which I have not seen in any TCL TV ever, like active color, for example. That's one new feature. Another new feature was under the brightness tab with your automatic HDR conversion. I don't know, like, how is it converting it, right? Like, I don't see ST20A4 anywhere here, so I don't know how you could say it's an HDR gamma curve. You're converting HDR to SDR, and it's nice to see a toggle, but what HDR-esque options open up, that I don't know, and I'm not seeing any real increase anywhere because you toggle that on. But it is a new feature as well. And then, again, the peak luminance option this year with the dynamic high and light and all that, that's new this year as well. So they do have a couple new features. So let's go to clarity, and you have your noise reductions. You have off, low, medium, and high. So those still exist, to be expected. Put it back to medium where it was. And then that's the digital noise reduction. Then you have the regular random noise reduction, which they have it set to automatic, but you also have a low, medium, and high. So you can set it however you want. They do have a clear gradation, which is always nice. I usually like to keep it on the highest that I could have it to remove any banding and anything like that. But they have low and off, basically. Precision detail is for Dolby Vision, so you won't need that in most regular things because you can't use it anyway. Now motion, this year, unfortunately, I don't know if this was intentional, but they did lock the refresh rate thing. So before, on the last one, you could switch which one worked best for you manually, and this year you can't do that, which I think is really stupid, but that is what it is. Okay, so even if you turn off the motion clarity options, it won't do anything for you. Now it does ship with blur reduction and judder reduction, everything already maxed out. I personally love this, some people might not. In terms of dynamic acceleration, it says increase the screen's refresh rate, and if you turn it on to do that, you still won't have access to you know, the refresh rate, which I do find to be very unfortunate, because last year on the TCL models, you know, the QM7 and higher, you did have that. So I'll go ahead and turn it off. And it is nice to see that the glitch that happened on last year's models, where when you'd activate dynamic acceleration, your backlight would break basically, and you have to restart the TV, does appear to be gone. So at least they did fix that bug. So that's always nice. Be nice if they fix it for those TV owners though, because I think that's, you know, pretty sad that they don't have that already worked out. You can apply your settings to all inputs or just one, and then under eye health protection, you have adaptive brightness. You could turn that off. You have a blue light filter. You can turn that on, which the blue light filter does seem to work appropriately, but there are no real toggles to it. Now, that's basically it. I mean, it's not crazy advanced or anything like that. There's not like a whole lot to it, but there's just enough to it to where it's pretty robust, as you can clearly see. So, a couple new features, but nothing too crazy. Now, if we look at what we have for the picture quality, the first thing that you'll be able to notice is that, again, it's not going to be impressive or jaw-dropping or anything spectacular or amazing. However, you do have good highlights out of the box. So you will be able to work on it and get an even better, more impressive picture quality with, again, a little bit of extra work. Because the one thing I'm noticing is, even though, yeah, it's not incredibly bright or anything crazy like that, you still have highlights where they're supposed to be more or less. Now, the elephant in the room, is it as good as what we'd have on OLED, for example? Well, no. And frankly, until I do any total optimization of this television that goes past the reference calibration, there's no real way to know totally what it can do. And again, the camera, by the way, for anybody wondering, will overjuice colors and it will make it look like it's probably amazing, because the cameras have their internal auto correction when you record television. So it's probably going to look very amazing on camera, not how at all it looks right now on my end, because I'm looking at it on the camera and I'm like, damn, that looks pretty damn good. And I wish it looked like that out of the box, because then we really wouldn't have to do anything. This will require a great degree more work than that. Unfortunately, camera technology just has not caught up to reality. But the sharpness, I would say, is very on par with what I am seeing on the camera, give or take some instances where, like now, the contrast is darker on the cloak, and on things giving just way more contrast, and things like the hair where it's a bit darker than what it's supposed to be. So again, you have to listen to commentary too. If you think you could just watch these videos and just pull out whatever from the video itself, no, because it's not a like-to-like one-to-one representation. That being said, though, you can get an idea, and all of these scenes, and again, in terms of picture quality, especially for my anime guys out there, I really love to represent you. We are a massive community that, for whatever reason, reviewers never talk about, which that's their loss, but I love my anime guys and gals out there. And this anime, One Piece, is just glorious on pretty much every TV I've seen it on. Now, out of the box, I will say this TV has a shit ton of potential. I don't think I've seen a TCL with this much potential out of the box, where, like, no, it's not the brightest, which I can totally say just looking at it, right? But it has a lot of potential, and I think the last time I saw a TV from TCL that was this impressive, and again, I haven't even touched this thing at all, this is just default settings, was the TCL S425 or something like that, or S524 or something like that. It was one of those. That one was really impressive because of the kind of highlights that it shot off. But if it had the black levels that this had, it'd probably be one of the best TVs ever made, especially for the budget tier. But seeing this gives me hope that we might be returning back to those days. But again, only time will tell. I really do have to put work in. But that highlight on Luffy's glasses, like right now in the scene, really gives me hope that it actually is possible to push this to a level where we are going to just be blown away. So again, I'm going to work on it. I did want to give you guys some idea of what it looked like. I'll go into some more sample images before I end, just so you can have a baseline of what the stock images look like, and then we'll go from there. I'll end probably on one of these types of animes, like My Hero, just simply because I know a lot of people do love it and watch it. And I can say, like, again, out of the box, you're not going to see some tremendously amazing color. And again, looking on the camera, it's warming things up a lot more. That's just what happens on Sony cameras. They're known for beautiful picture quality. And I don't think Sony ever intended for cameras, or most camera makers, for you to record TVs with them and get a one-to-one representation. Because again, TV reviewing isn't that big that they'd make industry-changing features for us in their cameras. So keep in mind, this is for skin correction and things like that, which is why the colors are being warmed up, because nobody likes to look blue and dead on photos. Which, again, to that point, I can say that this is okay as a starting point. If you have zero experience with TVs, out of the box, I can safely say you will enjoy it, because it's vibrant enough, especially comparatively to what I've seen through so many dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of TVs over the years, that out of the box, this is more than enjoyable for the vast majority of people without any real television knowledge. There are color issues that do need to be corrected. Like now, you're not getting anywhere near the picture that's on the screen through the camera. Again, looking at that looked amazing, and my work would be done for me. But essentially, we're going to try to get it to the point you're looking at on screen with the Sony color corrections put to them. That being said, though, it is pretty impressive for the clarity, in some instances like highlight clarity, and the highlights themselves. Brightness will not impress you, but again, I don't really believe in global brightness being the only story to tell. And I think that TCL is kind of getting that at their budget tier, which this actually, believe it or not, is giving me hope for something more flagship like QM7K or QM8K even. That I think is going to be the TV probably to watch for this year. With what I'm seeing out of the box right now, I can safely make that assessment. And I'm excited to dive in and see what all this TV is capable of. But again, chime in down below. Let me know what you guys want to see. This is an initial impression. It is not a final review. So what that means is everything I'm telling you right now is subject to get better and to change the more I optimize this television. This is stock, has not been calibrated, has not been adjusted. I will both calibrate and optimize this television. So for those who are new here, how that process works, First, I calibrate to the boring reference accuracy. And from that calibration of correcting our grayscale and our white balance and everything like that, I go in and optimize the television beyond reference to make it look the way you want it to look. So for anybody who's ever been curious as to how my calibrations work, reference accuracy first, then my in-house sauce on top of that, which yes, there is a reference standard for that too that I've created in-house. But again, I'm not going to be giving out the farm. That being said though, if you do join the membership, for $5, you will be getting every color correction and sharpness correction and everything you're going to see later on that's probably going to blow your mind on this TV down the road. I can't wait to get started on this. I haven't been this excited about something like this in a while, so hopefully they deliver the goods. You can see a lot of what I'm talking about already with the clarity and the brightness of the highlights, but let's dive in and go a little bit deeper. I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.